it's Debbie with Kip's Corner. Welcome back, and if you're new, welcome. Thank you for joining me for day 2 of the December Daily Advent collaboration project featuring Festive Dispatch digital kits, an ephemera kit and a pages kit from Tracy Fox Creative, who is Love Junk Journals on Etsy. I will have all of the links below. First link will be to the calendar for the month. Each day, a different maker will be making something featuring tags, envelopes, etc. pieces from the digital kit. And today is day 2, and I am working on this tag. So if you find it in your kit, if you haven't gotten it already, I'll also put a link below to there's actually 2 kits, to the 2 digital kits. One is the ephemera and one is pages. We're focusing this month on creating the ephemera to go with, and then the pages, of course, if you wanted to make a journal. And so I'm going to be working on a tag. I'm actually going to make 2 using the same background. This is day 2 tag. And your kit, I don't think they're labeled as 1, 2, 3, but this should be the second tag on the first page of tags. And so hopefully you can find it, and this is the one we're working on. I'm going to take 2 slightly different approaches here. I thought it would be kind of fun to do one tag with a little bit more assemblage pieces, a little more mixed media added to it, just, a little more of everything. But not everybody plays around with mixed media, and so the other tag, I'm going to do just a little tiny bit of add-on pieces, but it will be like all paper from the kit. If that makes, hopefully that does make sense. When I'm done, maybe it will, hopefully. I'm gonna keep both of them relatively simple. I'm not gonna go overboard with anything funky or weird. It's too early in the month for that, right? So, so we're gonna keep it simple. And yeah, here we go. So I've done a little bit of prep work, not a lot, but just, some cutting. I've got some things cut out. And have an idea of what I want to do. I've got these are the same tag that I've printed 2 different sizes. One of them I think is at 100% and one is probably probably about 90%, a little bit smaller. And then here underneath this one, and it's not glued down, this is just a chipboard tag. This particular one is from Prima Marketing. Tim Holtz also makes a chipboard tag. This is a memory hardware tag from Prima Marketing. And what I did was, obviously I knew I was going to cover the center, so I did not do anything to the center. But first I put a layer of gesso on top of the whole thing, just to give me a base to start with. And then I used a dark green. This is sap green hue and golden high flow acrylics. And I put a layer of that all the way around. And you can kind of see the darker here. That's the dark in the background. I let that dry fully. And then I went in with a layer on top of that of distress paint and peeled paint is the color. And this is also a fluid acrylic. And so I put 2 layers kind of both and let all of that dry thoroughly. Then I went in with a sanding disc and I sanded very lightly on top of the whole thing, kind of hitting the edges a little bit harder. But you can see that created a 2-tone effect here with the green. You can see the darker green that came through underneath after I sanded, and the lighter green that's on top. And then the brown edge, I inked around the edge, and that's kind of where I sanded a little harder to take off a little bit more. There you go, to give it that wear. So I wanted it to look like worn paint in the background. Most of that's going to be covered, but it's a really good starting point. Then I printed this out and trimmed the edges a little bit differently. My corners, you can kind of see here, the corners are at a slight different angle. I trimmed them to more closely match the angle of the tag itself. And then I inked around this. And that's all I've done so far to this one. And I've done nothing to this one yet. I haven't even finished cutting it out. The first thing I'm going to do is sew around actually both of these tags. So let me go do that and I will be right back. Okay, I've sewn around both of them just in a light colored thread. It's really subtle. There's really not much I mean, you can't see it very much, very subtle, but that's okay. It adds just a tiny little bit. Okay, that's that one, and this is this one. All right, next I'm going to glue this one down. So I'm just going to use Fabri-Tac. You can tell I didn't sew that very straight, but that's all right. And I have already inked around the edges on this one. I have not inked around the edges on the other one. So now you can see that we have, this kind of creates a frame around that tag. And this one as is. Next thing I want to do is on this tag, I want to put some subtle, a little bit of a background pattern on top of the pattern going on. And so what I've done is pulled, this is Tracy's, from when Creative Expressions was operational. It's called Clear Stamp Set Passport Background. And it's a background stamp. You can kind of see it here. It's a background stamp, and I want to put this stamp on and over the whole thing with clear embossing powder, and then just do some clearing. So there'll be a clear embossing. There'll be a subtle, hopefully, very subtle background with a little bit of gloss going on. Okay, nice. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see if I can turn this to where you can. The grid really came out nicely up here at the top. It's kind of hard to see on camera, unfortunately. You can see a little bit down there, and then there's some in through here, but it is not there. There you go. It's sort of showing up. It sort of is, sort of not. Very subtle in the background, which is perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. So let me get this out of the way. And on this one, now what we're going to do is we're going to build a background. Then we're going to put a little envelope as the top or the focal point. On this one, we're going to build a background, and we're going to use this tag, Santa shaking hands with the postman. I just love this. It's adorable. This tag is going to be our focal point here, and then we will create these. So on this one, I have just selection, just a random selection of some pieces and parts that I think will work really well on here. I have a piece of cardboard that has just a little bit of gesso on top. I have, this is a cash register key number that came up, you know, in the window, and that's a 25, so I thought that might work. This is an optometrist lens that it was actually originally black, and I've added, this is actually the back of it. I've added some silver to it, so silver wax paste from Prima Marketing. They come in a tube now. This is really old, but I still have it, so it lasts forever. And I've got some other parts and pieces over here that I'm just going to play with. And then what I want to do, if I can find my pieces, I want to roll some pieces of vintage paper and journal pages, roll them into rolls, and then put an envelope like this on top. So that's that one. This one is going to be a little easier. First thing I'm going to do is I've got this tag. I've already cut it out, and I've already inked it. And I've just got a little tag shape in chipboard that I'm going to put behind it so that it gives it a little bit of a lift and raises it up. So let's do that first. There we go. Oh, I like that. All right, then I have a random selection, pseudo-random selection of pieces from a couple of the pages, the ephemera pages within the kit. What I did is I pulled mostly some red pieces in some different shapes. And I'm just going to create, knowing that this is going to be probably about here, I'm going to create some collage, I guess, of pieces in the background. For example, I have Santa Claus Lane. I can't tell if this is, I have not inked this, so let's get these inked as I'm going along. Some of them I have, some of them I haven't. I'm going to use walnut stain pretty much on everything. It matches beautifully to the colors in the kit. And this one I cut out and I used just a tiny round corner rounder just to make it look a little bit more like what the sign would look like. And so essentially what I'm trying to do is create these pieces jutting out from behind this that are all red, that give it that put that red back behind here in the background. And so I think I'm going to go with something like this. Now, what I want to do next is I want to take a look at each one of these pieces kind of individually and do more to them. I want to make sure they're inked, of course, but I also want to look at perhaps adding some texture to them or some a little something to each one. For example, I think this one would look really pretty if it had a little bit of sheen to it. And so I think on this one, I'm going to come around to the outer edge. I'm going to leave blank. I have got embossing powder on my table here. I'm going to put Wink of Stella, and this is in clear, and this is one of my favorite pieces to use, or mediums to use. It just gives it a nice, especially this time of year with all the, you know, the holiday glitz and glitter. But it's not heavy glitter because I don't like glitter. So I'm going to put this just on these background, this red background back here. And I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see. There you go. You can kind of see where I left it blank, but added that just a tiny little bit of subtle. Now I'm just going to start just creating the collage part of this and deciding where I want everything to go. I'm not going to, I know that at one point I had decided I like that there. Okay. And I think what I'm going to do is cut this frame in half. Where's my scissors? Let's see if I can cut it right down the middle. And I'm going to use half of it at one part of the piece and half of it on the other part. Tucked behind. Let's see. Do I want to just do like that? Maybe I do. I kind of like that. And I want a piece down here. And down here, I want to, let's see, we're going to cut this off a little bit. Let's see, where are we going to, we're going to cut it off here. Because down here, I want the frame. There we go. I want it about like that. And up here, it can be like that. Yeah, I like it so far. Okay, this is one of the pages in the kits. It's the page that has the envelopes on it. And what I've done is I printed it out larger, quite a bit larger actually. I probably about 110%. And I got these envelopes and I chose the red one. When I cut it out, I left a little bit of a piece. This is, I don't know, about 1/4 of an inch here at the top. Then I scored it. Then I cut the flap away. Hopefully this will work. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this piece onto, I'm going to use one of these as the back. Let's see, how do I want that on there? Probably up a little higher maybe, about right like that. Yeah. And that's going to be what you see when you open the envelope. So bear with me, it's kind of hard to explain. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark this about like that. I'll have to trim it out again, but let me get started with that much. Okay, now what I'm going to do is glue this red piece onto this back piece that I just created, and then I'll ink it again, trim it and ink it, trim it and ink it, and then I'm going to glue this flap onto here. See if I can get it to work. I want this back piece to be a little bit shorter, so let's trim that down just a little bit. Oops, do it straight. I'm gonna, actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put this on first. Yeah, I'm gonna put this on first. So let's glue that. Let's ink this. Most of this won't show, but this little bit here at the top will. Okay, now I'm gonna ink the inside. I'm just gonna turn this whole flap into the brown and not worry about there being any pattern or anything like that. There we go. Okay, now I'm gonna glue this onto here. Ah, don't drop it. Okay. That ought to do it. Okay, now I'm going to glue this onto here. And I want that to be ever so slightly shorter, like that. So when you open the envelope, what I'm going to do is glue just around the outer edge. So just a tiny little bead of glue right here around the outer edge. Because what I want this to be is a real envelope. There's easier ways to do this, I'm sure. But this is the way that I'm going to do it. I can do it right. There we go. Line that up. All right. Now, let me ink this again, just so I can get that edge, that white edge off of there that I just glued on. And this back is going to be hidden, so you'll see in just a second. Okay, now, in theory, this should be a little tuck. Yep, see there? Now what I want to do is put, let's see, I saw it earlier. Where is it? The one that says December 25th. Okay, let me find my printout here. Here we go. I want to take this and cut this to fit inside this envelope. Then when you open the envelope, you can see It says December 25th. Cute. Okay, now I want to put a closure on here. So I think I'm going to go back to my Baby Brads. I might do one just a little bit bigger, but still a small one, because there's several sizes in here. Ooh, this one might be good. Yep. And I think what I'll do is put that right there. Poke a hole. I'm going to come up a little bit above the hole that's there. See if I can poke this through without hurting myself. Yeah. And then put that through there. Yeah. Okay. Got it. All right. So that's ready to go, or will be shortly. Now I'm ready to start gluing. I just need to decide if there's anything else that I want to do to this. I do want to make one of these silver, so let's do that. I just need to think through. I think I do, you know what I want to do? I want to put some texture paste on, not texture paste, well, acrylic snow. I want to put some snow on here. Yes, snow would be pretty. I'm going to go ahead and do 3 of these nibs with the silver. I really like the way that makes that. There's a little J on there, the part of the brand name, but it really makes that J pop nicely. Back and done, and the tags for day 2 are completed. I do apologize for so much fast forwarding. I took so much more time on the first tag than I thought I was going to, that I just kind of rushed through the second tag and didn't really record it like I would normally. So I'll walk through very quickly the first one. Sewing around the base of the tag. And then I just took different pieces from the ephemera pages, cut them out, and did a little something different to each one of them, or most of them anyway. This one has the 4 little brads in the corner. Those are Tim Holtz brads, mini ones. This one has Seth Apter's baked texture in vintage beeswax on top of it. This one doesn't have anything. This one has Wink of Stella in clear. Ooh, yeah, you can see it. On top of it, just in the background, the red background. This metal tag is just a number 2, and it's attached with some wire up here at the top. This one also has the vintage beeswax on it. This one just has the eyelet. Nothing else there. This one also has Wink of Stella on it in the red. Yeah, you can see that. Yay. And then the tag, which of course is also from the kit. I've got it raised in the background a little bit. And then I added just a tiny touch of silver. Ooh, there, you can kind of see it. Just a tiny touch of silver metallic wax to it, just to give it a little bit of a, it just ages it a little bit more, gives it a little bit more of a vintage look. Then on the back, I put Christmas postage paid, and then I used the green gingham from the Pages kit from the Festive Dispatch Pages, and then the rest of these pieces are from Festive Dispatch ephemera. On the second tag, same thing. I sewed around the edge first of the tag. I printed it smaller, so we have 2 different sizes on the tag. I added it to a chipboard base. On the chipboard base, I put gesso down first. Then just around the edges, I used a darker green. I used sap green hue. Let that dry thoroughly. And then I came back on top of it with peeled paint and distress paint. Let that dry thoroughly. And then I sanded it down. lightly, sanded the edges a little bit, inked the edges up, and then I went over the top of this. You can see it. Let's see if I can get it to turn. You can see that sparkle. I went over the top of this with a stamp from Tracy Fox Creative. In the background, it's very subtle, but you can see, I wish it would show, but it's not going to. Oh, there it goes. You can kind of see that grid pattern in the background. Very subtle, just adds a little bit of sheen to the background. You can't really tell exactly what it is, but that's actually what I wanted. Okay, from there, building up then, once I got that all done, I just started kind of assembling pieces. This is a cash register key, the number that pops up, not the key that you type, the price in the window of the cash register. You know, those old ones that popped up. This is just corrugated cardboard here in the back with a little bit of gesso on top. Then we have some vintage pin nibs that I put some silver wax on. So we've got one here and then the two down here. Some buttons. There's 3 buttons on here. There's one tucked back here. There's one here and then one here. The watch face and an optometrist lens. And then very, very back here in the back, which you can kind of barely see it here and here, is it was a little thin metal frame that I cut in half. This is from a vintage ledger. That's real vintage handwriting. And I just rolled it up. The idea is that these are the names. These are people's names. And they really are people's names. I can't tell what they say. I think it's Ferguson here. And then, let's see, what else? Is that everything? And then the envelope on top. The envelope is from Tracy's kit also. And I cut it apart to create a kind of a real envelope. And this is just some DMC floss tucked on the back. You open it up and there's a little card in here that says December 25th, which is also from the kit. It does come out. There it goes. But it's snug. And you could actually leave that open like that if you wanted to. But just a little card trimmed down from one of the ephemera pieces in the kit. Let's see if I can get that in there straight. It is snug, but it does fit. And then I've added a little brad here. I mean, I left this, you can see it, but I've added the brad here just loose enough to where this floss will pop underneath here, sometimes more easily than others. Depends on whether or not it's being cooperative and whether or not my fingers will cooperate. It's a little fiddly, but that just pushes over that over the top there and then hangs down. What else? Oh, and then on the very top of everything, I added some Deco Art Snow-Tex here, which I love. And I'm using that also on a project, my current project, Frosted Forest, which is also a Tracy Fox Creative kit. So by the way, go check that one out too. And let's see, what else? That's it. Oh, the back, I used the red gingham. So the red and the green gingham are from the pages, and everything else was from the ephemera. So I hope you enjoyed this. I really wanted to do 2 things that were very similar but very different. So the idea is that there's, a collection of things arranged to create, just a fun little interesting tag to look at in both cases. And so I do hope you enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun. And I hope you come back, not back here. Well, I mean, I hope you do come back here, but go back to the calendar, which is also linked in my description box along with the kits and all the other information. That calendar, you click on the day of the month and it will take you to a different designer or a different crafter for each day, and they will be making something different. So nobody else will be making a tag using this background. Something a little different every single day. You are going to see a ton of talent, inspiration, great ideas, all of the above, well worth a few minutes every single day. So with that, I would say thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for participating in December Daily Advent, and enjoy the rest of the month. Bye-bye.